Okay, so a couple of things I caught is like stimulus check, credit card, all the things I kind of shiver, honestly. So I just got a question, right? You're speaking college students, right? In my perspective, you know how most people have college loan debt, student loan debt if they've been in college, it could run anywhere from 5 digits, maybe 6 digits, so I hope
Yeah.
not.
Oh yeah.
But
Some people for sure. Yeah.
yeah. So tell me, right? I've heard Gary Vee say this before, and I don't want to mention his name too much, right? But um where's my thought process? Sorry. But he's been telling, he has said in his video, oh, if you're a college student, you have loan debt, why don't you try to join sports cards and flip and make $100 or $200? So I'm thinking, how are they gonna get that money in? And secondly, why not pay your debt off first? So I don't know. Can you just give me your opinion on what Gary Vee said?
I mean, I know he's big into sports cards. He's big into not buying dumb shit, as he would say,
Yeah,
and he's not big on college. And uh, like, here's the thing: there's a lot of people buying sports cards now that have not built the foundation of being out of debt first. And while you
yeah,
could buy sports cards to get out of debt, I think the majority of people that are in debt, especially if it's not college tuition, but especially if it's credit cards, you get there because you're irresponsible with money. So,
exactly.
like, you know what I mean? If you
Yeah.
look at college tuition, yeah, it's ridiculous. It is somewhat of a scam for a lot of careers because it's just I remember if you're in high school now and you're considering going to college, there is a podcast put out by Dave Ramsey, who is the #1 financial guru coach here in the
Oh,
US.
I know.
And Gary Vee's even featured in it. And it's an 8-part series, but they go
Wow.
over all the statistics and everything about college and how the tuition has gone up, I think 8 times what the salary of a college graduate has gone up. And it's just
Exactly.
insane. So please listen to that first. But, you know, if you're in college, like, look, I was in college, I got a degree. It didn't
Exactly.
do
Yeah.
a damn thing for me. It was a marketing degree from a
Yeah.
state school. It just didn't do anything.
Wow.
But fortunately, I didn't have debt. I had a
Oh,
scholarship. I worked my
congratulations.
way. Yeah,
Wow.
thanks. And I mean, it's kind of
Yeah.
lucky. My parents
Yeah.
helped out as
Honest.
well. So it was very fortunate. But I think the beauty of the sports cards is that you don't have to put in hundreds and hundreds of dollars. You don't have to put in thousands of dollars. To
True.
me, it's a lot more of the learning aspect of how can I buy a $5 card? What can I do with $5? What's one card I can buy for $5 or five $1 cards and make a
Right.
profit? And that can scale up for the rest of your life because the same process of this $5 card, flipping it for 10 and then $10 card, flipping it for 18 and then 18 goes to 40 and then all this up. It's the same thing as how people become wealthy with real estate. They buy a single
Mm.
house, they renovate it, and then they rent it out and they take the equity out, they move it on to
Mm-hmm.
another house. And then that other house is bigger, and then they move that onto a duplex. And then the duplex turns into a quadplex or a fourplex. And then that goes into a 6 and an 8. And then 20 years later, you have a 50-unit apartment building
Mm-hmm.
of your own. But the
Mm-hmm.
whole point is that you don't have to start with that 50-unit apartment building. You start small and you build up. And every time you just get a bit smarter with your strategy. You understand what works and what doesn't, and then you get a bit
Right.
tighter and you scale that up. And I mean, that's the same thing I'm doing with cards, and that's the same thing I'll be doing with real estate in the
Wow.
future too, because it's all
Wow.
about the mindset and getting a winning formula, and then just tightening that as you go to the point where you know that it doesn't matter. You are going to be good in the long run because you figured out what works, and now it's just a matter of scaling up.
Wow. Yeah, you make a very excellent point, right? Of sports cards, right? Yeah, like you said, $5, and then it just builds up a level, like the $20, $50, $100, etc., etc. When you were talking about that real estate, I was getting excited. 16 part complex, and that's very true for sports cards as well. But here's my problem with it, right? People are only seeing that vision. They're only seeing, okay, Zion sold his car for $100,000, or LeBron's most recent car is going on bid for $900,000 or something like that. His exquisite or yeah, one of those. Yeah, yes. Um, so let's talk about risk versus reward now, right? So just because I know the reward people see, and it's huge. You can make literally 10x your money. I have with a couple of my cars. I don't really want to bragging too much, but just give me your insight on like risk versus reward in the sports car industry.
Well, I think right now, like you said, everyone is looking at the reward, and it's
Yeah.
very easy to look at a reward when the industry is growing, right? Everyone's looking at the
Right.
reward in real estate over the last 10 years, from
Mm,
2009 to 2009, well, 2020 up until a couple months ago. It was all reward because, hey, look at what this was worth 6 months ago and a year ago and 2 years and 3 years and 4 years. And the
right.
problem with that is if you only focus on the reward, you forget that there's risk involved and that there are ebbs and flows. There are peaks and valleys, there's plateaus. And, you know, like if you don't understand macroeconomics, if you don't understand
Right.
how this all pieces
Yes.
together, it's easy to just focus on reward. But that's also why I have to look at, hold on a second, there's 30 million people unemployed. The average
Exactly.
American has over $8,000 of credit card debt themselves, not including their spouse. And then on top of that, the average graduate now has around 25 or 30,000 of tuition debt. And,
Jeez.
and so I have to think of, I can't just be in this little bubble of sports cards because there is this world outside of sports cards that affects sports cards. So
Right.
in terms of risk and reward, the question I always ask myself with a card is, how much can it go down?
Exactly.
Right? I know it
Yes.
could go up. I know a $2 card can go up to 10 or 12 or 15.
Yes.
I mean, who knows? But
Right.
what can it go down to? That $900,000
Mm.
LeBron card, yes, it can go up to this. And that person that buys it, he could be thinking it can go up to 2 million,
Yeah,
or it can go
that's
down to
true.
400,000.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
That's yes.
so,
Yes.
it's one of those things where if a year ago that price was so much lower, I'd be nervous because, yeah, people are getting in and maybe long term it'll go up. But if a year ago it was so much lower, then I believe that it could go down to that point again. It
You're
could,
right.
because if
Yeah.
the whole economy crashes, hey, you know, that's a great card. I'd love to have it, but I need to pay off my mortgage. I need to do other things. I can't just
Yes.
afford a $900,000 card now. That's when I had a
Yes.
job and where I had this huge business that was running, and now I had to close my doors, and now I can't just go out and buy amazing cards. So to me, with all the instability and the volatility of the whole economy and the world and the country and elections and everything right now,
Wow.
I'm
Yeah.
way more on the conservative side. But when the dust
Yeah.
settles, when everything is normal or somewhat normal, when the elections have gone through and coronavirus has simmered and we at least have some stability, then I'll feel good about saying, all right, these are the normal ebbs and flows, rather than right now, everything is just crazy.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. You're making some fantastic points right here. That's why. That's why I brought you on.
Well,
You're
appreciate
just
it,
making
man.
good point after good point, and then